All right, our first speaker of the morning, DJ Grothe. Douglas Adams. DJ Grothe is an American writer and public speaker who talks about issues at the nexus of science, critical thinking, secularism, religion, and the paranormal. He is president of the James Randi Educational Foundation, who is a co-sponsor of this event, and who are providing those 2 tickets to TAM, which is really cool. So please welcome DJ Grothe. DJ?
Well, thank you, Bill. And as someone who's organized dozens of these sorts of conferences, I just want to invite everyone to really recognize, as a volunteer effort, this is an amazing weekend. Join me in thanking Bill, the other organizers, the volunteers putting this on. Thank you. I think it says a lot when groups like CFI Canada, the Richard Dawkins Foundation, JREF, we join forces to put on regional events like this. It attracts attendees not only from around Canada, but throughout the United States, even abroad. I think this is a really big deal and a reason we're very proud to be associated with this. As Bill said, I am president of the James Randi Education Foundation, founded, of course, by James Randi some 17 years ago now. And I'm in my 4th year as president of the JREF, as we call it. I've been enjoying it immensely. Our mission is to educate the public, limited mission, about pseudoscience and the paranormal. It's advancing skepticism in that one domain: dangerous, unfounded, supernatural, paranormal, pseudoscientific belief. Our program, critical thinking, the scientific outlook when it comes especially to things like psychic, charlatans, faith healers, the broad category of the paranormal. Before I get into some of the discussion about why I think skepticism is foundational, really, to all of these allied movements, why skepticism, in other words, I want to give a quick overview of some of the exciting things hopping at the... We've started publishing books on skepticism for the iPad, Kindle, and Nook. Historical works for skepticism that have been out of print. We're happy to bring these important texts out both for the skeptic community, the rationalist community, but also the general educated public. We just came out with a series of 12 books on science-based medicine, what science says about medical questions as opposed to complementary and alternative medical interventions. We also do other important work, free regional workshops throughout the United States, especially trainings for grassroots groups in the US, teacher workshops, how to bring skepticism into the classroom. We have, I think, made some really exciting strides with digital media. My podcast, my interview show, For Good Reason. Before that, we did Point of Inquiry, 200 episodes I founded with partner 7, 8 years ago. We also do a couple other podcasts. Consequence podcast, this is a really smart idea by our outreach guy at the JREF, Brian Thompson, looking at the negative impact, the harm of undue credulity. So a lot of skeptics like getting together and talking about another reason why they don't believe that thing. But this is a digital media outreach that explores not just why a certain belief is unfounded, but what are the negative consequences. Consequence is that podcast. You can see it at randy.org. We've been happy to support the wonderful Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. Our video channel online is one of the most subscribed YouTube channels, nonprofit YouTube channels in YouTube history, and there are literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of video from the leading minds of the day exploring important topics on that channel. That's on YouTube. You just look up James Randi Foundation. So there's a lot going on: video content, digital outreach. And as Bill mentioned, of course, we put on the amazing meeting, the largest event of its kind in the world. Last year, we had about 1,300 folks in Vegas, a 4-day vacation. We call it a vacation from unreason. 4 days, 7 till after midnight every day. Workshops, panel discussions, evening shows, great debates and dialogue, after hours entertainment. We've been fortunate to have really some of the leading lights of the day connected with the foundation. Penn and Teller, of course, Bill Nye spoken at our event. We have a lot of folks come, and it should be said that we really reaching out to new people. So I'm happy to say between 40 and 50% of the folks who come every year to TAM, it's their first Skeptics event. So we consider this an outreach event as well. And, well, thank you for that, just like we rehearsed earlier, yeah? And something I'm especially proud about is that every year, a little less than 100 people get to come to TAM, the amazing meeting, for free through grant scholarships or other ways people come together and help really reach out and expand the catchment. We've started doing TAMs at sea. So Conference at Sea program, the amazing meeting last year, we did, I've been on a number of cruises. My favorite was in December, the Maya End of the World Prophecy Cruise we did through the Riviera Maya. And what else do we do? So we, not just the conferences, not just talking to skeptics, but we try to reach out in the media, of course. We're the organization that goes after charlatans. We're the watchdog organization that applies scientific skepticism to irresponsible paranormal claimants in the media. As an example, the celebrity psychics. You will be familiar just the last couple weeks, the great Brown and her, is it premature to call it a demise? So a number of months ago, not only do we focus on folks like Sylvia Brown, but really all of that category of celebrity psychic that we think pretends to speak to deceased loved ones and offer advice and counsel unqualified. We went after some New York psychics. Went after is probably putting it a little too strongly. The TV program Nightline in the US, Primetime Nightline, did an hour-long episode on psychics. And for the first time in organized skeptic history, we did an hour on primetime TV testing psychic claimants. 4.5 million people watched this. And what do I mean by testing? Well, we offer a $1 million prize to anyone who can prove under mutually agreed upon scientific conditions that those paranormal claims are real. And it was breathtaking. It was eye-opening at the end of the episode when some of these, I think, well-meaning psychics, they weren't celebrities, they were, area psychics who provided spiritual advising, looked in the camera. One woman, so there was a psychic who was a sort of Wall Street psychic. So I'm thinking of a man now. He looked in the camera and he said, well, maybe I don't have this ability, right? And that's a pretty big deal for a psychic to sort of grapple with that idea publicly. One of the spiritual advisors, it's spectacular to see the justificatory scheme that people to make sense out of not passing a test that they say on camera beforehand that they know they'll pass. She said, I'm really glad that Spirit didn't let me win this million, because had I won, it would have distracted me from all of the important work I have to do. And so the hoops people jump through, it's eye-opening, I think, even for the skeptic. We recently focused on a celebrity psychic who repulsively says he talks to your recently deceased loved ones. I'm talking now about James von Prague. We challenged him. So not only do we accept applications for people who say they have an ability and they try to win the $1 million by proving it, but we also take the million and we challenge celebrity psychics and other folks. We say, hey, put up or shut up. If you can do what you say that you can do, prove it, we'll give you $1 million. We challenged James von Prague. He's a TV psychic in the US, and he ignored our calls. He ignored the calls of the media. So we did a stunt where we brought, he said he could talk to dead people. We brought some dead people to his spirit in Laguna Beach, California. he said he could talk to dead people, so we brought some. Well, actually, we should say undead people. We brought undead people to a spirit circle, and this action against James Van Praagh got national media attention in Forbes and LA Times and elsewhere. I have a little video. You'll applaud after the video because it's a personal point of pride that immediately action, James Van Praagh edited his website, implemented new security protocol, and basically no zombies are allowed from now on, right? So this action, we did a little video of it, and happy to say it went viral. I'll show that now. Okay, so as most of you know, we're here tonight to shine the spotlight on James Van Praagh, this celebrity psychic medium who says he can talk to dead people, and that dead people talk back to him. We say he's taking advantage of the bereaved. He's not helping people overcome their loss, but he's getting them stuck in their grief. So we at the James Randi Educational Foundation issued James Van Praagh a $10 challenge if he could just prove that his stuff is real. He won't take our calls. He won't talk to us. He won't talk to the media who have asked him about this. So if he won't talk to us and he won't talk to the media, we wonder if he won't talk to some dead people. We want to speak to James Van Praagh. He said he could talk to dead people. We brought some. He won't talk to us.
I don't have access to it. If you'd like to talk to somebody, I can get somebody for you, but
That would be fantastic. Appreciate that.
Do you guys have a permission to be here?
We assumed we were invited because James Van Praagh says he could talk to dead people. He hasn't responded to our $1 million
but do you
challenge.
have, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
Okay.
James
Okay, guys. So, yeah, and he doesn't want our $1 million. So.
Why won't you talk to us?
Now, it should be said, we didn't go there to poke at the credulous, at the believers who were paying hundreds of dollars for advice from James Van Praagh or to be connected or reconnected with their deceased relatives. In fact, we didn't engage any of the believers there at all. I think that's important. We weren't there to rile up the grieving. We were there to shine a spotlight on James Van Praagh and the harm I think he does. We've started coming out with free resources to teach critical thinking. We call it JREF in the classroom. We're creative at the JREF. And all of these classroom kits are attached to, in the US, AAAS science content standards and national science education standards. So notice one of our kits, it's Do You Have ESP? It is not entitled, There's No Such Thing as ESP. Instead, it's Do You Have ESP? And it's an hour and a half or an hour classroom exercise where a teacher leads a class through an experiment to test whether or not any of them have ESP. Throughout the process, they learn something about statistics, how to guard against experimenter bias, and about blinding tests. The Cottingley Fairies it explores for students the role of celebrity in inculcating, I think, unfounded belief. So we connect the episode in the history of skepticism of the Cottingley Fairies, which is when two young women in the late 19th century in England reported actually seeing fairies in their backyard In the UK, they took pictures, and Arthur Conan Doyle of Sherlock Holmes was persuaded by the evidence, and he went public with it and really bolstered their claims, and there was a craze in the UK about these. We connect that to Jenny McCarthy and vaccine denialism, and it's a way for us to not sort of, our goal isn't to indoctrinate students into a list of things skeptics are skeptical about, but instead to raise challenging questions and to emphasize methods so that they can explore these topics themselves. We have a classroom kit on dowsing. Dowsing seems sort of trivial and unnecessary. Why do skeptics care about it? But we connect the dots to the ADE 651, which is this glorified dowsing rod that James McCormick was just convicted a couple weeks ago in the UK for selling tens of millions of dollars worth of these to the UK government, the US government, and the Iraqi government for use at bomb checkpoints to detect bombs. It's a dowsing rod. It took Randy, it took a magician to take these sorts of gizmos apart and discover that there's literally nothing in them. There's a sawed-in-half motherboard to a remote control, a VCR remote control, and some free dangling wires. And it was a scam. It was a fraud. And so this stuff has real world consequences. It's not just a matter of trivial belief that skeptics like to get together at a pub gathering and these are life and death issues. If you go to the JREF table in the lobby, you'll see examples of these modules, these curriculum modules. All of them are available for free at randy.org, and we have a few more coming out soon. One is based on, you guys have probably heard of the power balance bands, right? They've been for sale at malls across North America, Australia, all over the world. Well, we're cheeky in that we decided to produce some ourselves from the same manufacturer, same magic hologram with the JREF logo on it, and we've renamed them placebo bands, right? And the classroom kit talks about sports pseudoscience and how to test claims. Will wearing one of these power balance bracelets make you jump or run faster or give you better concentration? And we have built in some tests so students themselves can examine those claims. And of course, I mentioned the $1 Million Challenge. We think the $1 Million Challenge is really the way that we do two important things. One, we spotlight irresponsible claimants in the media. We get to challenge them and put laser focus on their claims. But we also get to encourage folks to ask the important questions about those claims. If someone says she can talk to dead people but won't prove it by getting that million, that at least should make you question the sort of evidence behind her claims. We provide a lot of resources to local groups, activist resources along these lines. So if Sylvia Brown, or I guess she's not really on the road, but Teresa Caputo in the United States, long medium, she does sort of the lecture circuit. We work with local groups to go to these events, not be disruptive, but to provide responsible information to people who might be going to these TV psychics for reasons, that instead maybe they need to see a grief counselor rather than a TV psychic. So I've reviewed a lot of what's going on at the JREF. One of the most things the past few years is Randy traveling around the world. It's been my pleasure, just last year as an example, to be with Randy in Spain, Italy, Germany, India, Australia, Mexico, Honduras, just all over. The man is 85 years old this year, and it's a paranormal event, it's a paranormal claim just about how much energy he has, and his tail's always wagging. He lives on the East Coast. I'm in Los Angeles. He'll call me at 4 a.m. some mornings and just, and another thing, and did we think about this, and let's go that direction. So it's sort of a miracle. A lot of energy, the man. I keep trying to get him to apply for the $1 million challenge, but I think there's a conflict of interest. So to frame the bigger question, why skepticism? Not just the specific kind of skepticism that the James Randi Educational Foundation advances, but the kind of skepticism I think that undergirds or should undergird all the work that we do. And what would it mean if you consistently apply the spirit of science, critical thinking, the sort of stuff we're talking about, to evaluating what you believe, even those beliefs that are so central to who we are? Well, it would mean that it would undermine some of your most cherished beliefs, and you would be, whether or not you know it, you'd be a skeptic. Russell has this great line, it's undesirable to believe, I can't do his high-pitched English accent, but it's undesirable to believe a proposition true when there's no grounds whatsoever for supposing it true. But he goes on to make the following point, which I think we often leave out of the conversation, that this is a subversive notion, because if you consistently apply skepticism, it's going to overturn your most basic, cherished convictions. This is a radical idea. It's disruptive in society to go around and question beliefs, especially the sacred cow beliefs. Now, there are a lot of those beliefs that the James Randi Educational Foundation makes it its business to question. In the US, almost 3/4 of people believe in the paranormal. And maybe that's no surprise. That the numbers in Canada are really not much different. The results of a poll conducted a few years ago by Gallup said that 73% of folks believe in ESP or haunted houses, ghosts, one or another of these paranormal beliefs. The Association of Religion Data Archives came out with a report 18 months or so ago, a couple years ago, where they predicted, from the report, the interest in the paranormal is only expected to increase with the growth of immigrant populations more open to paranormal belief. And the rate of paranormal belief is inversely connected to your fundamentalist Christian or monotheistic beliefs. So the more religious you are, the less sort of New Age paranormal belief you are. And if you know anything about religious identification surveys past 15 years, you know that the rate of the unchurched, people who aren't identifying with a mainline church or a monotheism, is going up, but also belief in the paranormal, unfounded pseudoscientific belief is also going up. So skeptics, atheists, Philophidians, rationalists, we can't sit around and say, look, we've succeeded because there are fewer traditional God believers out there. Because even if that's true, there are more people believing in, I would argue, sometimes equally harmful paranormal belief. So as I mentioned, 75% of folks believe in one or another of these paranormal beliefs, most of which posit that there's something like a sixth sense, or that the soul survives the body, ghosts or something there. So we say the antidote to this, sort of stands to reason, is skepticism. But that skepticism is not just saying no to those beliefs. It's not just bah humbugging the paranormal. Instead, of a positive, constructive method, we think it is really relevant to issues today. It's not an academic exercise that old white men get to just get around and carp on about. It's central to the scientific naturalistic view of the world and connects with a real-world agenda. And I'm going to argue that it's at the heart of all we should be doing in the atheist and humanist movements. Let me say that again. It should be the foundation of really all that we're doing, and I'm going to maybe not try to rock the boat too much, but I'll posit that it's not always the foundation of all of our allied activities, and I'll drill down into that a bit. Let's rehearse just a tad bit of the history for a second. Over the last 40 years of organized skepticism and humanism and atheism, organizations like SciCop, later the James Randi Educational Foundation, Michael Shermer's outfit, the Skeptic Society, they have tried mostly to focus on what Carl Sagan called scientific skepticism, which is evaluating in a scientific sense these sorts of claims, and not going after philosophical commitments that really can't be tested, right? And there is some, I think, appropriate debate to what extent God belief is a testable claim. And I think there are many relations of God belief that are well within the purview of Carl Sagan's sort of scientific skepticism. In other words, a lot of formulations of theism can be tested, and indeed are. There are people who sort of strawman skepticism and say, those skepticisms, you know, those skeptics say, treat religion with kid gloves, don't examine it, don't go after it. But indeed, in the history of organized skepticism, religion has not been off limits. A whole book on the faith healers and going after the methods of the TV preachers. Joe Nickell has examined the Shroud of Turin, or focused on weeping icons or stigmata claims. So that's skepticism, but there's more going on in what we're all about than just that skepticism. It was always up to the other organizations like Council for Secular Humanism of the United States, the Center for in the States. Now here it has a broader mission in Canada. American Atheists, American Humanist Association. All of those organizations, I would submit, also advance skepticism, but they don't focus on pseudoscience and the paranormal. They focus on maybe just exclusively God belief, or maybe they talk ethics. Maybe they're advancing skepticism when it comes to received morality, and they're pushing a sort of progressive secular humanist morality contra received religious moral traditions, etc. So in the 40 years past, I'm talking about a division of labor, a kind of non-overlapping magisteria for skepticism. One organization focuses on pseudoscience, other organization focuses on skepticism about God or ethics. There was an organization, the Committee for the Scientific Examination of Medical Claims or whatever, so alternative medicine and quackery. All of us are doing skepticism, but just in different areas. And I'm going to argue that skepticism as the foundation means that just being an atheist is not enough. Now, I'm a big damned atheist. I come out as an atheist every chance I can get. But atheism is just skepticism about one woo-woo belief, what Randi calls woo-woo belief, right? What's more, to know that I'm an atheist tells you nothing about my other beliefs or the other things I might be skeptical about. My ethical commitments, my positions, my political philosophies, etc. Louise Antony yesterday made that point, I think, rather strongly, and I agree with her on that point. I may be a Libyan, right, who has some blind faith in the unseen hand of the market. I might be a Marxist as an atheist. I might be a social democrat. I might be an anarchist. I might be a left libertarian. I am a left libertarian. So the point is, saying you're an atheist doesn't really tell you anything else about what else you believe. And as an atheist, get this, I might even believe in UFOs. I might even believe in the paranormal. The Raelians, that UFO cult, they all believe in Darwinian evolution. They all believe in, or they are all atheists, right? They just believe in UFOs. They believe sort of that all of this was wound up by an alien species. I think a rather unsupportable claim, especially when you drill down into the claims of their founders. So atheism doesn't necessarily imply a thoroughgoing skepticism. I was at a conference in the Midwest talking about a different topic entirely, all of the skepticism thing. They're just on the atheist side of the fence. And he said, oh, so it's good someone's out there doing this sort of thing, but haven't they proved psychic powers? I mean, they do it in the universities, don't they? There are these research programs, and he mentioned J.B. Rhine and Stanford Research Institute. And, you know, could you ask? Let's get into that. So just because you're an atheist doesn't really mean you're a skeptic. There are folks like Bill Maher, I love Bill Maher, or Joe Rogan, who at one time was sort of a moon landing denialist, or Bill Maher, who's a skeptic or maybe a denialist of big pharma and the medical model. I've been to humanist meetings where well-meaning folks who are set oppositional to the religious right believe in chakras or auras or the transmigration of souls. So it's not necessary that just because you lack belief in God that you're going to be a skeptic. Not all atheists are humanists, not all humanists are skeptics. It's important to realize that these categories are categories for a reason. Now, I am a secularist, right? In ethics, I am a secular humanist. In theology, I'm an atheist, and my sort of approach to claims is skepticism. Sometimes I go so far as to say I'm a well-being consequentialist or something like that, rather than humanism, because you'll get an earful from some folks who say humanism is a tad too speciesist. But the point is, I derive my ethics from a secular aspect of reason to human experience, not from revelation or something like that. In LA, I know a lot of other humanists. A lot of great progressive gay friends of mine in LA, but they believe in a lot of alt-med treatments and some really dangerous stuff, like when it comes to AIDS denialism and other anti-science quackery. So to me, being an atheist is not enough. Being a humanist is not enough. I like skepticism, and that's not just by virtue of my job description. I've been preaching this sermon for the last 15 years, even while at Center for Inquiry. So we conflate all these things at our own risk, and there's a lot of that conflation going on online. I'm perfectly fine with saying to sort of, maybe I'll get in trouble for quoting the Bible, but as Jesus said in, I think, John, to paraphrase him, the house of rationalism has many rooms, right? And so find the room you're comfortable in, and we could all work together and advance common aims. So, quick survey, skepticism is not just saying no to quack beliefs, nonsense beliefs, and it's not just being cynical. Even folks connected with atheism, humanism, whatever, they think that skepticism is a sort of naysaying posture. It's bah-humbugging others' beliefs. But indeed, it's just an approach to claims. It's a method of inquiry. It's the best way, I think, of finding things out. And in that sense, it's continuous with science. It's always subject to revision. And in a really obvious way to me, it's a little like ordinary common sense. That, I mean, yes, we could quibble, and skeptics do. There's no such thing as ordinary common sense because it's not too sensical. But the point is, we think if you're going to be skeptical before you buy someone's car, right? You lift up the hood, kick the tires. Be skeptical before you buy someone else's opinion. And what I am moved by when it comes to skepticism is the built-in humility. Some people think skepticism is arrogant. It says, I deign to know that you're full of nonsense. Instead, the opposite of arrogant, it actually contains this element of humility and an acknowledgement that the world may not always be like it seems that it is, that we're easily deceived, that we need to keep going back and looking at the evidence, and we have to have tentative conclusions. As Anne Druyan, Carl Sagan's widow, said, and I love this, skepticism is forever whispering in our ears, you are very new at this. You may be mistaken. You have been wrong before. That's the humility of skepticism. Now, what is skepticism not? Well, it's not just focused on Bigfoot. There's a sort of a pejorative going around about Bigfoot skeptics, that you guys major in the minors. There are big issues you should be fighting. Why do you care about ghosts and psychics and Sylvia Browne, etc.? I got an email from a well-meaning friend of the JREF weeks ago saying, "Why do you guys care about Sylvia Browne? She's such low-hanging fruit. There are bigger issues in the world." Well, leaving aside the fact that we have a mission and a mandate as a nonprofit and we have to carry it out, we think folks like Sylvia Browne do a lot of harm, and we're motivated to respond to that harm. Additionally, skepticism is not this concept, nihilistic denial of all knowledge, which you sometimes get in the academy, especially on the left. This postmodernist critique that says we can't really even know anything at all, that science, say, is just one mythic narrative among many others. You have philosophers of science asking sincerely, how do we know that a rain dance doesn't cause rain? Might we just be biased by the Western male-dominated scientific model of climate science or whatever it is? So the way I think of this is that skepticism is, and when we're talking about these sorts of priorities, skepticism is a bit like being a firefighter. Scientific skepticism is saying, well, there's an issue over there, and I have the wherewithal and the know-how. I can help put out that fire. And when that fire's put out, you go put out the next fire, or what Randy calls the whack-a-mole problem. No one ever goes to a firefighter and says, why do you care about fires? Don't you realize there are bigger issues? There's global warming. That's a bigger issue. Why care about fires? So there's a division of labor, and I'm just fine with that. Lastly, I want to say it's not dogmatic. Skepticism is not a statement of it's not doctrinaire, and so in that sense, we have folks that come to TAM who are open-minded or even a bit credulous about one or another paranormal claim, and we say the more the merrier. As long as you're willing to engage and talk about those beliefs and have them examined, and no one says the belief is off limits, the more the merrier. So about 25% of folks who come to the Amazing meeting do not consider us atheist, but all of them are ready for a conversation about, where nothing's off limits, all issues are on the table. So the whole point there is it's okay for some people to rail against God and some people to rail against ghosts and other people to talk ethics, and we're all part of the larger rationalist movement. Now, to bring the focus on why with an example, why this stuff is important. I touched a bit on psychics. I think that's a good sort of object lesson. I'm going to go into the types of psychics, our little taxonomy of psychics, some of their methods, and the real harm I think they cause, and why all of us, I think, should be doing a bit more about the issue with psychics and harm more on our radar. I should start off by clearly stating that though I think no psychics are real, not all of them are frauds. So let me unpack that. There are all sorts of psychics. There are storefront psychics, there are New Age psychics, there are what is called in the field of people who study psychics, shut-eyes, and then there are psychic entertainers. And only some of them know that they're faking it. Only some of them are knowingly using deceptive methods. Storefront psychics, you heard last night Zol Tan the Adequate, who was great, by the way, wasn't he? That was a lot of fun. Yeah. You heard him use the word gypsy. Well, in Romani culture, there is a sort of to be a part of organized crime that in the Romani clans, some women are trained to be storefront psychics, fake charlatan psychics, and deceptive methods, where the men are trained in con games of the Mr. Fix-It variety. You know, I'll pave your driveway or I'll fix your air conditioner, when in fact they're finding out from their fake psychic wife when someone's going to be out of town or on vacation. And it's organized crime, it's criminal activity. I would submit that these folks, and this is well documented, great social, some cultural history on these communities, I'd submit that these folks know that they're fraudulent, right? One of these Romani, one of these families was recently arrested and found guilty for stealing upward of $35 million from their clients over a 15-year period. The Marks family in New York and Florida, Randy's been railing against them for decades. Those are storefront psychics. I think they know that they're cheating. But they're New Age psychics. These are well-meaning folks, you know, who believe in chakras and believe in tarot cards, and they might not know that what they're doing is fake, much less they might not know their self-deceptive cycles that allow them to seem to be very accurate. They basically, I submit, some folks teach themselves cold reading and don't know it. I'll get into that. Some of these would be called shut-eyes. People who close their eyes, shut their eyes to the methods of some of the workers around them. There are a couple spiritualist communities in the United States, Camp Chesterfield in Indiana, Lilydale in upstate New York. And in the history of spiritualism, which is a worldwide religion that cropped up around the turn of last century because a couple young girls report spirit communication. It really became, sociologists of religion are fascinated by this because it's one of the few world religions founded by women. And spiritualism is still sort of out there. Sylvia Brown is a minister in a spiritualist church. She has religious tax exemption in the United States. That gives a lot of cover for some of these psychics. And indeed, few psychics call fortune tellers anymore. Now they call themselves spiritual advisors, right? It gives them free exercise of religion, constitutional protection for what they're doing. Then there's psychic entertainers. Now, psychic entertainers do many of the methods of all the other categories of psychic, but they do it as a show. Now, it's a little blurry because I've seen some psychic entertainers do a show like Zoltan did last night, and then to make do psychic readings afterwards, right? I've seen that in the magic world, and we of course stand opposed to that because when you're doing psychic readings, you're really playing with the deepest and most important issues in a person's life, and you don't play with that lightly. I consider it very unethical. Zoltan last night talked a little about cold reading, a complex collection of psychological methods. It appear that you're being very specific about someone when instead you're saying vague generalities and only become more specific based on their reaction. The James Randi Educational Foundation has partnered with folks like Ray Hyman, an expert in the field, and others. And on randi.org, you can go through a workshop, a cold reading workshop to train you in these methods, not so you'll go out there and become a fake psychic, but so that you'll be equipped a bit to have this conversation with at your next family reunion with your, Aunt Sally when she talks about how amazing her psychic reading was. Quick show of hands, how many people at this atheist, humanist, skeptic conference, how many of you have been to a psychic in your life? I think I'm psychic shaming right now, but so that's a much number than many of the other conferences I've been to. Now, I will sort of justify the fact that I go to psychics all the time as sort of part of my job, but even early on, I see the appeal. And in fact, even when you know the methods, you can understand how important that process is when you're going to the poor man's psychic, paying far less money to get that unconditional positive regard from the psychic who tells you everything will be all right. But we know how it's done, so the big question is, how can anyone fall for it? Saying something like, look, it's also obvious, those people are gullible, I think that's not the right approach because this stuff can be powerfully deceptive. Not in all instances, and I want to share with you one clip that probably take a bit too much pleasure in, but you'll enjoy.
Well, we're back with medium James Van Prague, who has had us fascinated all morning about the world of ghosts and the unknown. And we're going to throw it open to you with our studio audience now. Take it away and see what you can see.
Okay, sweetheart, great. I'd like to start with this lady right here who's sitting right in the first row. The figure very strong coming around you, okay? And with the name of either Mary, Margaret, do you understand the name? Margaret Mary, okay, Margaret Mary. And I got to tell you that I feel before she passes over, though, there's a lot of hard time to walk or hard time to get up and get things going. Do you understand that? And also a hard time. Did medicines before she passed?
Well, she was on medication. But
that's what I'm asking.
Painkillers.
Right, but there were medications she took because I feel this very, very much before when she's coming in here. And I feel some arthritis, by the way. There's a lot of arthritis, and there's a bone problem. There's also something with the back. So I don't know if she used to sit and have a pillow at the back of her, or is that you?
No.
No? That doesn't make sense to you? Okay, and what about trouble with the legs?
No.
Okay, okay. I have trouble with the legs now.
Well, my father's had 2 hip replacements.
2 hip replacements. He cannot walk as well as he used to.
Oh, no, he walks very well.
Okay, okay. Right. Was your mother buried?
Yes.
Because she's talking about being buried and about an wake, or a funeral, rather. And she knows about it. She was very surprised by it all. And who's Kathy, or Kathy? Is there Catherine, or Kathy? Catherine or Kathy? Oh, she's talking about that.
Kate.
You know about this name?
Well, Kate.
Katie. Who's that?
I have a cousin now that's just
passing.
surgery.
Right now?
Come with me today, but she just had to have surgery.
Let's talk about her, and she's praying with her, okay? I also know who's Catholic, but there's someone who's Catholic background. And,
yeah, we all are.
You all are, okay.
Yeah.
So there was a mass said for her, and she wants to thank you for a mass that was said. And there are prayer cards. There's a picture of Mother Mary somewhere around. Picture of Mother Mary. Would you know about this? You know about this. Picture of
Well,
Mother
all
Mary.
Catholics have Mother Mary around somewhere.
Good, okay, well, I don't.
You know.
But of course, that was years ago.
That still goes on.
But
Yeah.
Nola's mother's name is Mary, and Nola's mother died when Nola was only 6.
Oh, okay.
That was in 1950. Do you go backwards?
I do go backwards. I go backwards, forwards, sideways also. So, I want to talk about something else with you, though. I said, music. I don't know why about music. Did you not do music? Were you going to do music when you were younger and you stopped doing music?
No.
Okay, you never wanted to play the piano?
No.
Okay, who was that one to play the piano or music?
I don't know.
Don't know,
No
okay.
one in my family is musical.
I want to talk about this lady here. Your husband's passed over? Or your father's passed over, rather? Father passed over. I don't know if he liked cars. The whole thing about cars. But there's something about cars with him. I mean, he told me about this, okay? I don't know if you just recently got a car, about getting a car or changing a car. Are you living or dead? Do you understand? Do you understand about the cars?
No.
Did you just get a car, or were there...
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
for a couple of years.
Ah, okay. Who had the heart problem?
Possibly my mum.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's passed over as well? Do you know if there was a heart situation before she passes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and there was a situation that she was going to either get an operation or a procedure, something before that, okay? So I don't know if you know that she didn't get that. I also want to ask, I don't know who I'm with Teresa or Terry, but I am. Okay, I got to tell you that.
Sorry, what did you say?
Teresa or Terry.
Teresa?
Teresa or Terry. And was there a divorce with you? Never. You never married?
No.
Okay. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because I want you to love yourself more. Because you don't. And I need you to love yourself more. Okay? I also want you... There's something up here with your father. I don't know, but I'm talking about a car here. I don't know what it means. If you're just getting a new car, or you got a new car, there's something with that. Okay? I got to tell you that. I'm going to come over here to this lady. Are we almost closed?
We're nearly there, just to see if you could feel anyone.
Your
else
husband
around
passed
you.
over, correct? Do you have his ring or his watch also?
Yes.
Are you wearing it?
Yes.
Thank you. You just told me that in my head, okay? So you're very open. I want to talk about a picture that you had redone of him after he passed over, or you moved the picture of him, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I also want to tell you that he's sitting right next to you on the, I don't know if you call it the couch or the settee. No, who's smoking the cigarettes? Are you smoking cigarettes?
Yes.
Would you please stop? Because he's there in the settee with you smoking the cigarettes. He's smoking cigarettes, okay? And I don't know who Paul is, or Paulie, or Paula. The name Paul. You understand that?
Paula.
Yes. Who is that, please?
Friends.
Okay. He wants to say hello or thank you to them because they helped when he died. They were there. They were here. They were around. You don't know that.
James Van Prague. Please thank James Van Prague for rocking some interesting questions.
Thank you, thank you.
Very intriguing.
Yes, people come tonight, they'll have a great experience.
Now, thank you for joining us on the show. Your website, in case people have got any questions?
vanprague.com.
vanprague.com if you'd like to tune into the other side. Now, here's another great circle opportunity.
Yeah, well, you almost feel sorry for the man, right? So without belaboring the point, I really couldn't see it in that example because it was so bad. Psychics pretend to be experts in many fields that they're not expert in, and that's my big beef with them. Not just that they say untrue things, you know, that I'm talking to dead people or the tarot cards are giving me insight into your life. You know, of course that stuff's untrue. But if that were all it amounted to, there are a lot of untrue things in the world that we don't tilt at, right? But when psychics pretend able to give you advice on whether or not you should sell the house or what investments to do, or there's a new thing on Wall Street, no kidding, corporate psychics. Psychics who advise CEOs and boards. I think this is corporate malfeasance, right? Or you're having family problems. Rather than going to a family counselor, you go to a psychic. You're having you know, insecurities about yourself. You know, rather than go to a therapist, you go to a psychic. That's the problem with psychics. Even among psychic entertainers, they say, look, there are going to be believers everywhere, and so it's not unethical of me to just say some pablum, knowingly say some general platitudinous niceties, make a buck, they feel better, we feel better, you know, because as a psychic entertainer, we get the money, right? We feel better. I think that's unjustified. And what's really ugly to me is that they're unqualified grief counselors. They get people stuck in their grief. So ask your Aunt Sally next time she harps on about how great psychics are, if the psychic has any actual training. Does the psychic know anything about finance? You know, don't ask a psychic about an investment, ask a financial planner. And, you know, the way to really connect the dots here is if you're concerned about justice, about social justice, about the marginalized in our society, who are the targets of the faith healers and the psychics? They're women and they're poor people. Peter Popoff, the TV preacher that Randy exposed on the Carson, the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, the TV preacher who had a earpiece in his ear with his wife backstage, feeding him information about people in the congregation that he said was God. By the way, I've heard some of these tapes that have never been published, and they are reprehensible. The stuff they say about these poor victims, you know, that fat effer, you know, 3 rows back, 4 seats in, or just really reprehensible stuff, like psychopaths, I think. Now, I'm not qualified to diagnose anyone, but it's really disturbing. Well, where does Peter Popoff, guys, you know, he's still in business. He is on every week, multiple times a week, in the United States, across the country, on black entertainment television. And it should be said, he no longer offers really healing services. You don't send in money and he doesn't say he'll heal you of your cancer or whatever it is. Instead, he offers, no exaggeration, no hyperbole, supernatural debt relief. So you lay out your bills, he sends you holy water or holy oil, you sprinkle it over the bills, and God will help you declare a miracle bankruptcy. And it is bankrupt, but obviously in the other sense of the term. So this stuff should be illegal. It actually is illegal. Some of the Peter Popoff stuff, you know, you can't do physical charlatanry. You could get busted. Fortune telling is illegal in various United States and Canada as well. And so this is, again, why psychics shift, and now they say it's sort of a religious practice and not fortune telling. This is indeed, you know, why we offer those resources to local groups. Section 365 of the Canadian Penal Code says fortune telling is illegal, but being a spiritual advisor is not, obviously. So those resources. If any of the local groups with CFI Canada want to plug in with the JREF, ask Michael Payton, or you could go to randy.org, get these downloadable things. You want to do some activism at the local level on these issues. So here's the point. Skepticism isn't about being the smartest guy in the room or gal in the room, though we do sometimes suffer from what I've called the Mensa effect. You know, Mensa effect is where all the smart people get together and says, I am really intelligent, therefore I'm right, and you're really intelligent, so you should know that I'm right. And that's sort of the skeptic game, and we have fun with that. But I think the real benefit of skepticism is it's the humanistic impact of skepticism. It's doing good by being right. It's caring about people. That's why we do skepticism, not just to prove a person wrong. And that is then my little appeal to why this skepticism stuff matters. And I appreciate the invitation to come to the conference. Thank you. So I think we do have a second for questions, if there are any. Yeah.
I have a quick comment and a quick question, real easy. Just thought this one might be a little bit amusing to you, but a friend of mine just coined, at least he claims to have coined the term skeptical-sexual. So I just thought you'd kind of get a kick out of that.
I always liked Paul Kurtz's, instead of secular humanist, sexual humorist, right? So.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm just wondering, has the JREF Foundation kind of looked at this whole phenomena of The Secret and Rhonda Byrne and her of woo-woo, feel-good people?
Right. The question is about The Secret, really a creation of Oprah. She's promoted so many of these folks, including Dr. Oz, others. Randy.org has reams of resources on The Secret and also New Thought. So New Thought is the analog to the New Age movement, but New Thought, it basically says you get what you deserve in life. It's a sort of bastardization of some Hindu doctrine and other stuff around the turn of the last century, and it's really had a negative impact. I think even more so than, say, Calvinism or fundamentalist Christianities or others, the doctrine in The Secret is reprehensible. It allows you to walk past grieving or a homeless person or a hurting person and say, you brought that into your life. You know, it's the thinking that you're doing that, has designed that life for you, and you deserve it. Cancer, people who have cancer, it's their thinking that did it to them. And it's the slimiest get-out-of-jail-free card for removing any responsibility we have to our fellow man. So a lot of information on randy.org. You should check it out. That's the long way of saying, yes, indeed, we do. So.
The thing that's probably most disturbing about it is, for the most part, the way they present it.
Right.
It's very nice and comforting.
Exactly. Question here.
Hi, Rob here. I was listening to James Randi do an interview on national radio here in Canada a week ago, and it was about the recent events in Cleveland, right, with Amanda Berry, and a lot of people heard about Sylvia Browne and what she said on Montel Williams back in 2004. And I also related to your New York Penal Code that you flashed up on there. Where was Montel Williams taped? If that was in New York, could that have applied to her in that case? Or?
She wasn't future. She was sort of giving her sense of the past, right? Mm-hmm. It's not officially illegal. It's jaw-droppingly unethical. It's, in fact, the second time she looked at grieving parents in the audience of the Montel show and said that, sorry, honey, your child is dead. The first was Sean Hornbeck, who was abducted and held hostage for 4 years, a few miles from his parents' house. But they stopped looking because Sylvia Browne said some Latino in a white truck abducted your son. So it's not illegal. It's just deeply unethical. It's ugly. And that's what riles us up. We push back, even if other people say, who cares? It's just a psychic. So.
Has there been any follow-up with the Sylvia Brown incident then?
Yeah, the past few weeks have been great few weeks for skepticism. A lot of national media attention, a lot of scrutiny of these sorts of claims. The ADE 561, that bomb detector guy, was also convicted. So sometimes the good guys win, and so yes. Question, real quick.
Marty Shoemaker. I'm from Vancouver with the BC Humanists.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to take a job, a project in Virginia Beach, and met some people that were involved in the ARE and the Edgar Cayce Foundation.
All right.
And a very, very powerful group of people, many of them very learned but still caught up in this. And I was wondering whether the Randi Foundation or anybody else has really done a retrospective analysis of his psychic powers, which came under a scientific scrutiny, including Harvard Medical School, et cetera. Do you have any literature on that?
We have an encyclopedia, Claims of the Paranormal. Cayce and his claims are in that. It's on Randi.org, and Randy's written about Cayce and other prophets. He wrote a whole book on Nostradamus as an example.
Yeah, I am aware of that book.
These sorts of beliefs seem harmless, but they have real-world effects. So I think we have time just for one more question here. And, we can continue the conversation after. Yeah, cool.
Hey, I love the talk. Lots of stuff I agree with. One thing that did kind of trouble me, though, you seem to conflate skepticism, the process, with skepticism, the community. It's true that, not all atheists, get into skeptic topics like UFOs and the paranormal. But can we also say that not all skeptics, some skeptics will actually buy into crazy religious bullshit? If you
not all skeptics are atheists, to make your point. In fact, I agree. Just like science is at once a body of knowledge, it's a method of inquiry, and it's also a community of inquirers, skepticism is that as well.
Yeah. Agreed. If you can...
there's overlap. There are atheists involved and religious belief. Martin Gardner, the grandfather, you'd call him the grandfather of organized skepticism. He was a fideist. He did say, you atheists have all the best. I don't have a leg to stand on. But God damn it, I believe in God. So, buzz off. Now, that was, not a direct quote.
Yeah.
So there's that's why I tried to emphasize the point that skepticism as that the community of skeptics aren't doctrinaire. There's no statement of non-beliefs, and why even at TAM you'll have people who believe in paranormal claims, as long as they're willing to engage on it. So thank you, everyone, and please come by the JREF table and get some more information. Thank you.